Hello and welcome to Horror Boys, the number one horror movie podcast on downtown Kentucky's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris. Hi.
And Isaiah.
That's right.
That's me.
That is you. Thank you
Or is it?
Oh, crap. Is it not?
We'll
Who
never
is
know.
this man that we've been friends with for years and podcasting with for 8 weeks?
Uh-huh.
Long podcasting career, yeah.
It is.
Only presumably Isaiah.
Yeah, I assume his name is Isaiah because he introduced himself as Isaiah like 5 years ago when I met him. So,
Wow.
Wait a minute. 8 weeks?
yeah.
This is number 7, isn't it?
Oh, 7 weeks even. Yeah, you're right. Nope, you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're
You
right.
had me worried. I mean,
No,
I'm abysmal
It's
at
been
math.
that long?
No, it's 7 weeks, not 8 weeks. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been tuning in lately, thanks, Dad. You know that we are watching the Friday the 13th franchise currently, and we
Yeah.
are on part 7, as Isaiah pointed out to me, The New Blood. I have thoughts, but we'll share them as we go through. Let's just try to jump right into this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's do
it's a movie.
Mhm.
I guess, real quick, if you thought 6 was great, this isn't. Let's jump right into it. Yeah, so we start with a narrator kind of telling the general idea of Jason, telling about how the curse of death, the curse of Jason, and then we have like that little history recap of like the first 5 movies, and then it goes, all right, and let's just give you uncut footage from the last movie because gotta fill that
You
time.
know how much you guys missed uncut footage from the
Yeah.
previous movies when watching a new movie.
We haven't done
in the
that since
franchise.
movie 3, but we're back, baby.
Since movie 3?
I believe so. 4 had like
Oh.
no, 4 had like a really good, well done video package from the first ones.
Yeah.
6 or 5, 4. The 5 had the new scene with young Tommy
Running
at the
in the
gravesite, and then 6 opens at Tommy trying to unbury Jason.
Is this the first
Yeah.
time where we have a narrator?
I believe
It is. Yeah, this is the first time in the franchise where
The
there
first
is
time
a
there's been a
narrator.
solely narrator role. Like we mentioned in
Who's
4.
not a character.
Yeah, in 4,
Right.
they reused the dialogue from 2 as a narrator. Because he kind of, that character, who I don't remember his name because it was 5 movies ago, had told the story of Jason to the camp counselors he was with. So they used that
Yeah.
in their little video package in 4. But in this movie, they had a narrator who then stopped narrating and just gave us the ending of the last movie. The classic Friday the 13th trope is back. Was it one you missed? No, it wasn't, but it's back.
Yeah.
And we cut to the credits. There's nothing special there. There are the credits. And then we cut to young Tina running from her house. We don't really know why quite yet. I think you might hear her parents yelling, but it's kind of faint. But then she runs off to presumably Crystal Lake. There's no establishing shot yet, no letting us know it's definitely Crystal Lake, but it's obviously
It is Crystal Lake.
It is Crystal Lake. Yeah. So she goes off into a boat and goes off into the water. Her dad comes out and he's like, "Oh, Tina, come back!" And she's like, "No, you hit Mom again." So we're like, "Oh, he's abusive." And we find out that she hates her dad and she's angry at him, and that's where the movie goes to a new place.
Yeah.
She gives him the most awkward death stare before her anger literally bubbles up the water around her because she has telekinesis. Because that's where the
Yay.
franchise is at now.
It's what everyone's been asking for in these Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
Is a character with telekinesis.
So
It's finally here. They've delivered.
a little background from what I gleaned from a different video about this movie. The reason they did this story was they wanted the last movie, which we all really liked, actually did terrible at the box office. So they're like, "Oh, we need something new. The people don't care about Jason anymore." They tried to get this movie to be Freddy versus Jason, But at that point in the franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street was doing amazing and had no reason to do business with them at this point because they weren't owned by the same company or anything. So it was like, why would they agree to be a part of this? So they said no. So then the writer or director or producer, someone was like, well, why don't we make like a Freddy versus Carrie? So they made basically Freddy versus Carrie, but once again, didn't have the rights to Carrie, so it's just a different girl with telekinetic powers.
Jason versus Tina.
Yeah, I said Freddy. My bad.
You did.
Jason versus Carrie, and we got this instead, which is the new one.
Her name is Tina.
Her name is Tina.
It's Tina.
She's not Carrie, and
No,
he's
she's
not
not.
Freddy. I misspoke there. Crap, ruined everything.
Two better.
I didn't know that.
franchises.
I mean, that's interesting stuff, but I wonder, like, they had to bring Jason back somehow.
Mhm.
It was going to have to be something supernatural.
Was it though? He was still definitely
mean-
alive at the end of the other movie. You just had to break the chain.
Yeah.
Is he alive? He's just kind of like floating lifelessly.
His
The
eye
boat
opens at the
killer
end of the
chopped
last
his head all
movie.
to pieces. And
His
Yeah,
eye
at the end of the
opens.
movie, it is confirmed
His
that he
eye
is
Oh,
would
yeah, I
alive.
open
forgot
and
about
like,
the
oh,
eye.
he's still
The
At
alive.
the
eye.
beginning
now.
of this movie,
So-
they're just like,
They
yeah, maybe
literally
he isn't
didn't
actually.
have to bring him back any such a way. They just had to break
all
the
right,
chain.
that's a good point.
But instead, we'll get to that. We're not quite at that point yet. We have her coming back a little bit after that little behind the scenes. She kills her father by collapsing the
deck.
The deck, and it's actually kind of a cool little practical stunt of them destroying this dock. It's well done.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's not cool
I
that
don't
they
know-
got a telekinetic character, but
Yeah, it's lame how it happened, but it's the actual execution of that scene isn't bad.
Did y'all expect some? I mean, I didn't expect something as overt as an actual wife beater shirt, but I certainly didn't expect a V-neck sweater. The guy came out wearing like khakis and a white sweater, and we're hearing this little domestic abuse scene going on inside the house, and he comes out and he's like a banker.
Because it's a powerful message about how don't judge books by their cover. He looks like a good father, but he's actually
True.
an abusive father. This
Yes.
movie
Yeah.
actually is an art house film and deserves lots of credit for that moment right there that you just.
You're right. You're right.
what really caught me off guard was the fact that she had telekinetic powers, because the water started bubbling, and I was like, oh, her desire to have her dad be dead is summoning up Jason, and he's gonna like run and tear down the dock and then kill him.
No,
No, she does that of her own volition.
no,
And,
she's a little Carrie.
yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And then we
Flash
have
forward?
once again another classic trope. She wakes up. It's a memory, but a nightmare memory, because that's one of those classic tropes in these movies is have a scene that happened years ago and have the character remember it here for our sake. And yeah, so she's on her way, actually back to that same house with her mother, and we at this point,
Dr.
yeah,
Cruz?
we at this point meet Dr. Cruz when they show up at the house. So Dr. Cruz is quite possibly like one of the biggest like jerks in the franchise. Not the biggest jerk, because we also have Melissa in this movie, who's also just evil for no reason.
And Jason,
Oh yeah, Jason's missing.
you jerk.
Ah, man.
I think he's a
mis-
he's just a misunderstanding little boy who got killed. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. I'm a Jason apologist.
apologist. Ooh, that's a tough job.
All the people he kills are bad people. They all sin.
Yeah,
They all
that's
commit
it, yeah.
the sin of harmonica.
Harmonica.
Playing harmonica,
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
although sometimes
Premarital
not.
harmonica.
Yeah, premarital harmonica. Naked. If you're a first-time viewer, and that now maybe you figured out what it means. Maybe not. That's fair. Maybe you'll figure out later as we go a little bit further into this movie. So the first kind of scene. At this point we actually meet Nick, who offers to help Tina bring her stuff inside, and I believe he does. We also meet some other girls. We don't know their names yet, because this movie is, like many Friday the 13th before it, terrible at telling you characters' names until like halfway through the movie, or till 20 minutes after they're dead, like one character we will discuss later.
yeah. Which I looked up the IMDb cast for, only to figure out 20 minutes later that I probably did.
They did actually reveal it for us, thankfully. But yeah, so we have Dr. Cruz then inside the house trying to coerce her. That's how coerce her. That's the word? I don't know. Sure. Try to convince her. Try to trick her. Get her angry enough to use her powers to try because he's apparently trying to at this point we believe trying to help her understand her powers. We find out later, kind of not. We really never truly find out his motivation fully.
Well, it wasn't even that she was trying to, or he was trying to help her understand her powers. It was like him trying to help her get through.
Yeah. Get through
her guilt of killing her
Yes.
dad, is what he says.
Yeah. So at this point, you think he's not evil, and he becomes evil, but still, you never truly find out his motivation.
No.
Because there is like a reveal later. We'll get to.
It implies some things.
Implies some things that they never really explain at all. I'll bring that back up when we get to it. So he gets her angry enough that eventually she makes this matchbook that he wanted to have her move, light ablaze, cool little pyro thing. And then we cut to a random couple who we later, a decent amount later, who is this? This is...
I think Russ?
Yeah, I think it's Russ and
Sandra.
Sandra, yeah.
Yes.
You're right. We find that out like way later in this movie. That's who these people are. They're playing harmonica in the back of a van. Do you get what it means yet? Have we done a good enough job explaining the joke? Is a reoccurring
Keep it a
joke?
secret.
Is a reoccurring joke 7 episodes into a series that we want people to be able to jump into a bad idea? Probably. Are we going to keep it going? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, of course.
But yeah, so they're playing harmonica in the back of the van for like a minute. We don't learn their names, and they don't die immediately, which is what normally happens when you have the random couple
Playing
harmonicking. But yeah, so it's just like, okay, this seems completely out of nowhere. And like in other movies where you have scenes like this, it's for pure like titillation purposes. They're both like fully covered, so I don't understand at all why this scene is there. Like legitimately, I can't see at all why the creators thought this was a good scene to put here.
Oh, we gotta understand that they really like playing harmonicas.
I guess.
Because it happens like 2 more times before they die.
Yeah, I guess.
The one thing I could think of is that, I mean, we've all complained before about
Padding out
the
time?
characters that they bring on immediately to die.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. We do
And-
get these characters introduced a little bit.
Diversion of expectations?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
I mean, or at least just building them up. But again,
Yeah.
then the question would be, why build them up with harmonica when they could be doing anything
like
else?
having a
But-
conversation, learning their names already.
Look, because they really
No
like playing
conversation, no.
harmonica. Because Sandra really likes Russ for his big giant wallet.
Wallet.
That buys a harmonica, I guess. This
No, she does immediately later say that it's
Oh,
a
I
giant
know.
bullet in his pants.
She does say that. She does say that.
Which is a huge harmonica, I guess.
Yes,
I don't know.
he has a huge harmonica in his pants. So now we cut back to Tina, and she's running away from the house and ends up on the dock, or a new dock, because the dock she was destroyed, and she's remembering her dad's death, and apparently somehow this remembering him somehow messes with Jason and frees him. Once again, unlike later in the movie where they actually I feel like they do a decent job explaining her what she's doing telekinetically. This one just kind of happens. Like maybe she's trying to resurrect her dad, but accidentally resurrects Jason. Maybe
That's probably what it is, but it definitely
is badly
like,
done.
clear. She's
Yeah.
just like, she's feeling really hard. By feeling really hard, I mean she's going.
She's got a big old poopy in her pants.
And then Jason, erupts from the bottom of the lake. Because why wouldn't he?
Dude, yeah. She just bestows life on this rotting corpse.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
now
mean,
maybe
it's not-
perhaps psychically linked to him also? I don't know.
I guess this is where she gets psychically linked to him, because there is a little bit of a psychic link later, twice, for just 2 randoms. Once again, the movie had an idea, but didn't execute it on it properly. They're just like, I guess sometimes she sees when Jason kills people, but also sometimes she doesn't. And sometimes she sees kills that happened like 10 minutes ago. Sometimes she sees kills that happen in 20 minutes.
20 minutes in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the 2 times it happens. Like it's not it's one time she sees a kill that already happened, one time she sees a kill that's gonna happen. Because reasons. And now we cut back to her running inside and, talking to Dr. Cruz about this. They have kind of an exposition kind of scene back and forth. It goes on for what feels like a little longer than I care about at that point in the story, because I'm like, I don't really... At this point, I'm already like, oh, she's a weird character. This is going to be a weird movie. They really went telekinetic character versus Jason, because, I don't know, the last one where we, did a perfect version of this style of movie, no one cared, so we had to try to do something else. Like, I get it. Like, I respect them trying to do something different after what we all agreed and the consensus online is a good movie did terribly. It's like, what do you do? Like, it was the worst in the franchise financially, but very well reviewed. Like, you can't make another one of those because it obviously doesn't work anymore. This doesn't either. They failed. They missed the mark, but I respect and understand why they tried to do something different here. But
do you know if this one was more popular?
Yeah,
I don't believe so. I believe at this point they're just diminishing returns going forward.
That tracks.
Well, that's not true. Like, it's released much later and has Freddy in it, so Freddy versus Jason probably did better than this. But I don't think any of the other ones coming up did better. I could be wrong, but I did not do research on the financials other than knowing that the last one did bad because it was mentioned in a video talking about why this movie was the way it was. So, this movie, hey, maybe this movie did great. I don't think so. I mean, here's the thing: it obviously didn't do bad enough though, because they did make 3 more movies in like the direct line of the movies. So,
yeah.
Now we cut back to Jane and not cut back to. We meet for the first time Jane and Michael, and they're kind of walking through the woods, talking about how they're trying to get to this party. Actually, we don't know what they're trying to get to yet. She reveals that it's actually for Michael's surprise party. That's the whole reason all the other characters we meet are at the camp. Because of that.
in the same setting at this cabin.
Yeah. Now we cut back to Nick, who shows up to... Because there's a lot of cutting back and forth between characters. You're like, who is this person? We actually did know both of their names, because they were very nice and said... He was like, oh, Jane something. She's like, oh, Michael, you ruined everything. It's like, oh, cool, you know both their names. Cool, thanks. Cool. When they die, I'll know who they are. That'll make it easier for my note-taking. I don't have to go back and scratch it out when we find out their name 20 minutes later.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah, Kate. So yeah, then we cut back to Nick, who is apparently at this point we find out is Michael's cousin, because he tells us his cousin's having a surprise party, and he invites Tina to this party. This girl he randomly met, he invites to his cousin's birthday party, with all of his cousin's friends. It seems a little weird to invite a random girl you just met to this party, but hey, you know what? Good for Nick.
It does, but I think we find out not too far in the future that none of the people at that party are actually like Nick's friends.
Yeah, they're not Nick's friends.
Yeah,
they're all Michael's friends.
I don't think it's like super uncommon to just bring like a +1.
A +1 you just met though seems a little weird to your.
Well, it's a +1 that he totally like wants to be with, so you know.
That's true. He does have some harmonic...
Alone in the Woods +1.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's +1.
Lack of options +1.
There we go.
What are you talking about? Maddie was single. He could have been with Maddie.
Lack of options.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
+1.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to Michael. He leaves Jane to go pee. And, when you split up in a horror movie, that means you're going to die. So
you are dead.
Yeah, Jason ends up stabbing Jane to a tree with a knife. That's the point where he uses the knife. Then he doesn't have the knife again after that. At this point, I believe he gets a spike, maybe?
I think it's a tent spike.
I think it might be the tent spike, even though
that's what I thought it was too. And then I was like, where is there a tent?
Because he doesn't find the tent till later.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense. But I do think you're right, it is a tent spike. I do think that's what it is. It just doesn't make sense that he has one. So then he stalks Michael for a little bit before throwing it at him. No, this one was called Knife Kill on the cut scenes.
It was called Knife Kill. But it definitely was not a knife.
Yeah, I don't... Whatever.
Yeah,
is the thing about it.
Knife.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, he kills him. And this is kind of moment where you kind of realize, and it's something that I think we'll maybe do a deeper discussion at the end of this part of the review. This is the point where you realize the deaths are kind of lackluster.
Yeah. Cut heavily and very...
very, about to get stabbed, cut away, cut to the dead body. Like, you don't see any of the actual kills. Well, you see a couple, but you don't see most of the kills themselves.
Which apparently is not quite the movie makers.
It's not the director's fault.
No.
Really at all. Like, he tried, and we'll talk about that a little at the end when the general view idea of the movie. That's the words I'm getting out. Now we cut back to the party, and we get a bunch of nothing dialogue and like 7 names thrown at us, and we don't know who's really who yet, but we find out Eddie, Russ, Marissa, and Maddie's names all in the scene. You kind of think you know who each one is, but it's not quite clear yet. And you also meet most of the characters in the scene. Some of them don't get names yet.
Lots of names thrown around.
And at this point, Tina has a random vision of Jason killing
Michael?
Yeah, killing Michael from before. But simply, I think it was in a different way. But it caused the same tent spike to fly at her house. This movie is kind of all over the place and doesn't quite make sense.
He's got 2 tent spikes.
Yeah, he has 2
Michael was leaving him on the road like breadcrumbs.
Apparently. That makes sense. That's true, they did have some camping stuff with them, so maybe...
that's what I was thinking. I was like, they did have sleeping bags, so it's not like totally crazy to assume that they also had like a tent and a bag.
Sure, I guess. It's still, this movie was not... As much as we just gave the movie saying it might have been better with all the kills, the plot and everything else would have still been pretty bad. But at least there would have been cool kills. Because there a lot of these other plot holes we're pointing out are still there, even with the cooler deaths.
I'll reserve judgment on that until I hear a plot hole bigger than the tent peg.
Then we have then we have Tina. She goes to tell Dr. Cruz about this and her mom, and tells him how the tent spike is in the back of our shed or back door or whatever. I don't remember the exact wording she used, but it's at the back door. And she goes to it, and when she gets out there, it's not there.
Ba-ba-bum.
Oh, why? Well, we'll find out much later that Dr. Cruz hid it for reasons, once again, not really explained. The movie is badly done in that regards.
To keep her stress levels high.
I guess.
Because, she's delirious, and he has to make her believe that she's crazy. I'm being an apologist for this movie now.
Yeah.
You're a Jason apologist. I'm a Friday the 13th Part 7 New Blood apologist.
That's fair.
A dying breed of apologists.
It's a very, very small set.
Then we meet Dan, an unnamed girl, who I believe remains unnamed. We will refer to her as Sleeping Bag Girl going forward. Dan and Sleeping Bag Girl are introduced just so they can die, because that's what you do in movies like this. You introduce characters. This is the classic.
Whoa. We introduce these characters so they can die and give Jason a machete.
That is true. Dan also has a machete to go chop some wood. Dan goes off with his machete to chop wood because she's cold, but despite his best efforts, she doesn't want him to warm her up. She wants a fire.
Except that she does.
She does later. But at this point,
seconds after he leaves,
She wants a fire, gosh darn it. Get me a fire. Women, man, they don't know what they want. So he goes off, and Jason shoves his arm through him in what would have been a cool scene if it wasn't cut to crap, which is a lot of the scenes in this movie. And this is where he picks up the machete. Oh my gosh, Jason finally has a machete that he uses to literally cut open a tent immediately, and that's it, I believe. Unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think he uses the machete again.
No.
You think classic, Jason finds a random guy to get a machete from. But then it kind of really isn't, because he just uses the machete to cut open the tent to get Sleeping Bag Girl, and he bashes her against a tree.
What else would you use the machete for?
In what is probably the coolest death in the movie, but is even cooler in the cut version that doesn't truly exist.
Because in the uncut version that doesn't really exist, there is a really cool death.
Yeah. He bashes her, and unlike in the movie, he bashes her once, throws her dead body down, which honestly is probably all you would need to do. But in the uncut version, he bashes her repeatedly to the point where the blood starts to pool at the bottom of the sleeping bag. before then, and splurts out because there's so much blood that pooled at the bottom of the sleeping bag before he throws her to the ground.
Like a tube of toothpaste.
Yeah, what we could have had, but we didn't. And then we cut back to the party, and we, at this point, not much happens, but we do find out that Ben has a name. His name is Ben.
Ben has a name. We also find that David is a stoner that
you're right.
women find attractive.
I think that actually is the next scene.
Is it?
I think so, because then we have Tina tells Nick that her dad died, is what I wrote. So there's this little scene there. And Melissa's also kind of stalking them from behind watching this. So she finds out about her being, a crazy person in an asylum before. Then we meet Robin and David. So I think this is where we find out that David is the stoner.
There is that,
Robin is
that whole really boring exposition scene first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have an equally stupid exposition scene of random partiers being partiers. I guess not exposition, but it's just random. Whoa, we're here, we're partying. Oh, he does drugs, cool. Maddie's disappointed in Robin for wanting to be with a druggie.
I think that she's just jealous of Robin.
Yeah,
I think it's implied that, I wish I was Robin right now and getting hit on by David.
Yeah. But she makes the big deal about it being because of the drugs. But you are probably right, the actual motivation behind the character. Then we have Tina looking for Nick at that same party scene. And Melissa teases her about being in a insane asylum. And so Melissa uses her telekinesis to, break her pearls. It kind of looks like she's about to choke her, but then doesn't at all. It just kind of shatters the pearl necklace.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get our first, Melissa kills somebody on accident.
Tina kills Melissa on accident?
Melissa
kills someone on accident. Melissa's actually the killer.
Melissa kills herself on accident by being choked out by her own pearls.
Yeah. So she does that, and then Tina runs away to go back to the house, and she starts yelling at Dr. Cruz, and I wrote down with some of the worst acting ever as she yells, because it is atrocious the way she's yelling at him. I don't remember the line, but the delivery is so bad. And then she throws a TV at him with her telekinesis before that scene ends.
It's more like a TV, kind of floats in his general direction.
Well, she threw it at him with her telekinesis, Chris. Yeah, it was badly done. But they tried, okay? They tried.
Sure did.
Then we have Tina, a scene where Tina tries to leave, and she meets Nick, and she's telling him about, he's like, I'm going to go look for my cousin because he's still missing. And she's like, what's your cousin look like? And he's like, oh, here, I got a picture of him in my wallet, like every normal dude has of his cousin in his wallet.
Every cousin.
I'll be honest, I don't have a picture of my cousin in my wallet. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, no? What about you, Isaiah?
All of them.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's fair. There's always one in every group. And, Nick is like Isaiah. He has one.
That's it, yeah.
And,
so it's like... you die, Austin. We don't have pictures of our cousins in our wallet.
Darn it. We have to die. Well, maybe I'm Tina. I have telekinesis.
It's an easy preventative measure to take.
But yeah, she reveals that was the person she saw get killed earlier in the movie. Then we have we find out who Russ is, and we also find out him and Sandra. This is where we have the scene where she talks about his big harmonica in his pants. And that's what his harmonica was saying. Sandra, come here, and that's why she fell in love with him, was because of his bulge. That's how, it's like, all right, good for us, I guess. They have a skinny dipping scene because it's a Friday the 13th movie, and if you're gonna go swimming, you gotta get
a Friday the 13th movie. That's not 6.
Yeah, that's true. 6 didn't do the nudity. It just did a good movie.
Yeah. Crazy. Who'd have thought?
The crossroads that each movie faces.
No, because there's still other movies that have both. 4 is both.
Yeah.
No, this movie just sucks. It has nothing to do with the nudity or not. But yeah, where were we? So yeah, they go in skinny dipping. Russ is trying to start getting ready to go skinny dipping. Sandra's in the water because, of course, she's a girl in a Friday the 13th movie. Yeah. So she shows her body while the guy doesn't. Right. because these movies are made by sexists.
Well, the second, third, fourth, the fourth movie
The best
with
one.
Tommy.
Exactly.
It doesn't. It has both men and women.
You're right. And you're
Well, I
right.
knew.
There is one movie where they show some guy butt and like 7 girls' boobs. But every
you
other
get
movie
it.
is like, hey, we'll show boobs. But and, like I don't care. I'm not into guys. But it is like, okay, cool. We're just gonna objectify women for the sake of objectifying women in this scene. Got it.
Yeah, it's the 80s. You get it.
Yeah. Where was I? But yeah, so of course Russ does not get naked. He's just unbuttoning his shirt when he takes an axe to the face. Once again, much cooler in the version that we never got released. Because that is the theme of this
cooler.
movie. Is
Yeah.
much cooler in the version you don't see. Yeah, Russ gets his face kind of like axed down the middle. It's really a weird kill, but it was cool.
Well, it would have been cool.
It was cool in the version that is really grainy and has like the tracking numbers on top of it because it was never meant to actually be seen because it was the version that had that in it got destroyed by the studio.
Destroyed?
I believe that's what he says at like this little intro on the DVD before going into it. He's like, oh, that version doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah.
Dang.
Okay.
Yeah, it's... So there's not even like hope that there'll ever be an uncut version of this movie. The only versions of those scenes are the grainy versions we've all seen. And
The home VHS tape looking
basically,
things,
yeah.
Yeah.
Then Jason teleports into the water and pulls Sandra under with him. And I guess kills her under the water.
He sure does.
And then we see him drag her like dead body out. But you don't really see her die because once again, you don't get to see people die in this movie.
Nope. Too scary.
We cut back to the party and have, the quote here that I wrote is, and have useless, stupid dialogue. Because it's just another scene where it's like, hey, look at these characters, they're drunks, or they're high, or this character's this. And it's like, you haven't done anything to make me care about any of these characters. And then Jason showed up at like the outside of the house looking in. And then we leave. Because that scene is just there to, pad time. Then we have Dr. Cruz, who is in his room looking at his stuff, and the delivery of this scene, I'm not sure if he finds the spike in his drawer, and it seems like either the acting is terrible, which is possible. He doesn't seem to understand how it got there almost with the way he's reacting to it, yet it's kind of implied that he stole it and put it there to make her look crazy. And then there's also a scene that I think around the same point where we have him finding the bloody version of the spike with the body. That I guess is
like
when he
flashes
found
back,
it. Yeah.
and then it flashes forward again.
But it doesn't do a good job showing that that's a flashback. You kind of feel like for a second that they cut to that and he's finding a new spot. It's weirdly done.
Spike number 2.
It's weird and badly done. Like a lot of things in this movie.
I feel like in this case, he's astonished that she's right.
I guess, but he found the spike already. You think he would have known then? Not now when he's reflecting
I guess he's
on
expressing it outwardly for the first time when he's alone.
I guess.
That's my Jason.
I'll be
Friday
honest.
the 13th Part 7 apologist. That's it.
That's probably the intent, but once again, it's done badly. Where were we? He finds the 10th spike. And then I think I say I genuinely am lost as they cut back between Dr. Cruz and Amanda Shepard. Because then we have Amanda Shepard finding the stuff. That's what it is. That scene happens. Then we cut to Amanda, which is her mom, finding the stuff. Finding that in his thing. And we cut to him out in the thing, which apparently is the flashback maybe of him finding the spike. It's back and forth between her and him finding the spike. And you're like, wait, what? What is this scene? And then she addresses... Dr. Cruz shows up. She addresses him about it and how he's... She also watches the video of him with his session with her daughter, like trying to force her to move the matches and anger her. And she addresses this. They have this big argument. And Tina shows up to the door around the end of it. So she doesn't quite know that like he has the spike or like that kind of parts of it. But she does know that like, oh, okay, he's... I don't even know. She leaves after that point, after hearing part of the conversation. and she goes to steal her mom's car, I believe. And she goes driving off. She steals a car. She has some car keys. She steals a car. She drives off. She's driving for a while, and she has a vision of Jason killing her mom, which this is that one we're talking about later.
Yet.
That happens later. So this is like a premonition, while the other one was like a vision of the past. Like, it's really like, what are her powers? We don't really know, because also they only manifest these 2 times. When it comes to the vision side of it. She gets into a car crash because of this, and she leaves the car. And we cut back to Maddie making herself up. And I believe, Chris, do you remember the dialogue that you said you were going to remember? Like,
No.
after she puts like all this makeup on herself and like does her hair up, dresses up real nice.
She says something like, just need a touch up my butt.
Yeah, like...
But then is also like, yes, no, that is exactly what you just did.
Because there's a line earlier where Robin says that to her house, like, oh, she just needs a touch up. And now we have this scene where she's like, makes herself up and makes herself better, and then's like, nah, I showed you. It's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, I sure showed you. I didn't need any of the things that I just did. I look great after I did all the things that I did to make myself look pretty. You know, just a little fun contradiction.
Yeah, you know. She goes to the woods looking for David because she wants to be with David, even though David was definitely like with Robin last time she saw him. So I guess she's just hoping she'll find him in the woods for some reason. And she loses her.
Hang out.
Yeah, she goes walking for a while and she loses her. She realizes she lost her earring. She walks back a couple steps, starts digging in some dirt, and actually somehow finds the earring. Which is
incredibly lucky and unrealistic.
What are the odds that she knew where she dropped it and was able to find it? But she did. She found her earring. But it doesn't really matter because right before that, right after that, Russ's body falls randomly in front of her for some reason. Like, just from the tree above her, just falls in front of her.
Yeah, which implies that Jason climbed up that tree with Russ's body, dropped it, and then ran down the tree. And then appeared in front of her?
But he's a while away from her, it felt like. Which means like he jumped through a few trees before dropping down.
Well, we know he does teleport.
He does teleport, so I guess he teleported right above her, dropped the body, then teleported away from her for a reveal.
He's actually a Super Saiyan.
I think it was just hanging there.
Maybe.
And then
maybe the body was hanging there and it fell. Or maybe he threw the body over the tree, it fell through onto right in front of her. He just yeeted it up there.
Great, an Olympic javelin thrower, just...
You understand. Yeah. Any of these theories could be right, because the movie does not tell you whatsoever what actually happens here. It is left to the interpretation of, okay, his body's there. Oh, that scared her. Oh, now Jason's here. Okay. And then Jason and her have a little game of cat and mouse. He chases her for a while, and he chases her into this like little tool shed. And she hides for a while, and then sneaks under a different place, hides again. He leaves. She sneaks back out. Then he somehow gets into where she was hiding, because apparently there's another entrance, and he sickles her, like breaks his arms through the wall and sickles her to death. If that sounds super convoluted and pointless, it was. It was. It was a long, drawn-out scene. Like, that's like one of those drawn-out cat and mouse scenes are normally for the final girl.
The main girl?
Yeah, the final girl gets to have her moment of escaping from him. But this is just, we need to pad the movie out. So she escapes for a while before she doesn't. Because...
Well, Austin, as we find out later, why would we have a cat and mouse scene with the final girl when the final girl has telekinetic powers?
Maybe that's actually the point. Maybe they wanted to do the little cat and mouse scene because that's a classic moment. But they're like, well, it doesn't make sense with this other character, so we're just going to give it to Maddie.
I don't know, just give it to anybody.
Yeah. Now we cut back to the house, and we cut initially to Melissa and Eddie, who are about to play harmonica. Then we cut to Robin and David, who are playing harmonica.
About to play harmonica.
No, they are. They're mid-harmonica playing.
No, yeah, they definitely are.
Then we cut to Ben, and at this point, unnamed girl, who we find out 20 minutes later is named Kate, who are also playing harmonica in Russ's van?
I guess they all just, like, before they went off, just decided that
We're
we're all
about
going to go play harmonica simultaneously.
together. Oh, it's harmonica.
Musical
o'clock.
chairs thing. They're rotating. Yeah.
Musical
They
chairs.
wrote.
All right,
don't know if
we'll
that was
start out in the
implied.
van, and then you can go to this bedroom. We'll go to the living room.
Jason, he moves the van while they're, playing harmonica in the van. And they think it's Michael. Oh, Michael finally showed up and he's messing with us. So, Ben opens the thing to surprise Michael, already fully pantsed. So I guess he was playing harmonica in his sweatpants.
Yeah,
Fully
probably.
in his sweatpants. Because he's just...
Everybody knows that's how you really enjoy harmonicas, with your sweatpants fully on.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. This movie's weird and bad. Then he gets out. He goes chasing for a while, and I wrote down initially that he gets his head ripped apart, but we find out in the uncut version that he gets his head straight up crushed,
Juiced.
in one of the best kills I think maybe in franchise history. Too bad it's in 244 grainy VHS quality is the only way to see the scene.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Yeah, they straight up, in the uncut, just crush his head and, blood comes spurting out.
So cool.
And then also it cuts back and his head is literally, compressed.
It's awesome. I want to, praise
dope.
these scenes. The problem is, those scenes
not
aren't
in the final
actually in
cut?
the movie.
And apparently no longer exist.
Yeah, besides those
In
grainy versions.
The same
you've seen.
quality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty cool.
Then we cut back to Kate in the van, kind of trying to find out where he is. She goes out to the open window, and there's this party horn
Little
that Jason
kazoo type thing.
Yeah, this weird kazoo, but also had a spike at the end. Kind of, it looked like it was weird. And Jason stabs that into her eye, and in this version, there's a little honk right as he does it, and no blood. And the other version that doesn't exist really, there's a little bit more blood and no sound effect. But it's just
An even trade.
yeah. I'll be honest, I don't need the extra blood for that scene. The sound effect was actually pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
It was actually pretty great. This was a good kill.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to Eddie and Melissa, and Melissa's like, "Hey, this isn't working. I'm not actually into you at all. I was only using you to try to get Nick jealous." Because we didn't really address that earlier, because it was part of those scenes where nothing happened. There's multiple times where she basically said, "I want to be with Nick," even though Nick's like, "I have no feelings for you whatsoever."
Yeah.
So that's
And
Melissa's
everybody
character.
knows the best way to make somebody jealous for you, doesn't have any feelings, is
play
get
harmonica with a
somebody
random
else.
dude that he doesn't care about,
Mhm.
and then he'll want you. So Eddie gets rejected. He has this funny line, though, about how, because we didn't mention this earlier, but Eddie, when we introduced him, we find out he's this weird sci-fi nerd who's writing stuff. So he's like, I've been rejected by tons of sci-fi magazines. You think I care about this?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's funny. Good for Eddie.
What a burn.
Yeah, good for Eddie. You got her.
Got him.
Now we're back to Robin and David, and they're still playing harmonica.
Yeah, they are.
Then Jason cuts the power, and we cut back to David and Robin, and David's like, "Oh no, what should we do?" And Robin's like, "Keep playing harmonica. Why do we care?" He's like, "Oh, that's a good point." And then they continue.
The lights are off.
Yeah, they continue to play harmonica in the dark now. Then we cut to Nick and Tina, who find Michael's dead body. Very sad moment. Nick obviously really cares about this cousin. He has a picture of him in his wallet, and he is dead.
But sheds no tears in this moment.
Yeah, no, he doesn't care.
It's a pretty hasty
Yeah,
reaction.
he's like, "Oh, he's dead. You were right." And he leaves. Then we cut away. We cut back to David and Robin. David's hungry now, and Robin's really giggly because she's really high. And he leaves her in bed to go find some food. And he doesn't find food. What he does find is blood or mud. It's not clear. It's dark. You can't really tell. There's something all over the floor. He's kind of slipping around. It might be mud from Jason, because Jason is waterlogged this whole movie. He's really squishy at certain points.
Yeah, make some sounds.
Oh, that's one thing we didn't mention earlier, but I want to mention right here because we haven't mentioned it. Jason looks amazing in this movie.
Yes.
The costume work on Jason is the best Jason we've ever had. Like,
Yeah.
he
And
is
he's
so
like seeing
good.
his teeth grind together
Yeah.
behind the mask in the
Yeah.
chase scene earlier in
Yeah.
the shed. That's
Like
Yeah.
the exposed spinal column is super
Yeah.
dope.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Best part of the movie for sure.
For big Friday the 13th fans, this is also the first appearance of Kane Hodder, who is considered by a lot to be really like the best Jason. For a while,
And the most consistent.
Yeah, Chris didn't agree until he started doing some really cool stunts later in this movie. Because
I was like, oh, I mean, he just seems like Jason, which I mean doesn't seem like an incredibly hard thing to do. Just, like stand there menacingly.
yeah, but it's
In
like
a
little
Jason
head
costume.
movements and stuff to add to it. I feel like there's been a lot that don't do that. They just kind of stand
But
there.
yeah, the stunts definitely cemented it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, he jumped through a window.
But he does.
And he's not so wooden. Like
Yeah,
when
that's
he
what I'm
throws
saying.
things around, he's not turning like the old Batman. You know, like he's
Yeah.
very fluid and aggressive in his movements, and
See, I
he can
respect
turn his
Isaiah's
head.
opinion more because he's on the same page as me, and he was a better Jason overall. I agree
I
with
just
you,
wasn't
Isaiah.
paying close enough attention.
And I'll be honest, Isaiah,
because this movie had lost me.
we're
At the moment there was
you know what?
telekinesis.
That's fair. You know what? I take back any criticism I have towards you, Chris. There, you are right. Yeah. So he got. Where were we? We were at David. He was went for food in the fridge, and he gets a kitchen knife to the gut. Once again, not a cool death because the MPAA royally screwed over this movie. Yeah. Then we cut back to Tina and Nick, who go to Dr. Cruz's office, and they're digging through his stuff, and they find out that he knew about Jason. And this is that scene we were talking about earlier, where once again, I don't understand the motivation of Dr. Cruz because they don't ever truly spell it out. They leave it to a lot of these like weird, like, oh, so was he bringing her to bring back Jason? So he wants Jason back? But why? Because that's never explained. Jason ends up killing him later. Spoiler. Like, it was never a moment where he's like, oh, see, I brought back Jason. It makes no sense.
Yeah, there wasn't like, oh, well, Jason is actually my brother. I'm the kid of Mrs. Voorhees.
That would have been awful, but at least it would have explained the character.
Yeah, like why he did it, why
But
he
no.
even brought her to Crystal Lake aside from like to exploit
Torture her
powers.
more to hopefully get her to harness her powers. But he knew about Jason, so it felt like that was supposed to be important, but it wasn't.
And then it isn't.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't answer your deeper questions about him, which are legitimate. But in this particular scene, I remember that she said she's looking for. It's implied she's looking for her dad's gun, and they're in her old house. It's her old dad's desk. So it's possible that her dad is the one that collected the newspaper clippings, not Dr. What's his name. But again, that doesn't answer any of your questions. And the main thing I'm basing that off of is that Dr. Cruz has this drawer that's the top one, and the gun's in the bottom where they find the newspaper clippings.
You know what? That is fair, and maybe that's the answer.
Or you'd make a great Friday the 13th Part 7, A New Blood.
Apologist.
I should get that.
Join us.
Well, I'm not part of that, actually. I take it back. It's funny is me and Chris, when Chris was really hating this movie, for the most of it, I was like, I mean, it's not good, but it's not that bad, was my thought when we were watching this movie together earlier. And I was like, I'm going to take a hard stance that I love this movie while you try to crap on it. But then, once we got towards the end, all those feelings went away for me. I'm at the point where this isn't as bad as 5, in my opinion, but it's a close second. But yeah. Where were we? Find out. Then we got cut to Eddie. Who's Eddie? I don't remember Eddie. Oh, Eddie's Eddie was the guy who was the nerd, the Star Wars guy.
That's right.
Or not Star Wars, science fiction guy. He's going through Michael's presents because Michael never showed up. So he's like, I guess I'll open his presents.
Yeah. With a metal detector?
There was a metal detector.
Question mark? Don't know what it is.
It's just a.
It was so weird. Maybe it was supposed to be like his communicator.
EMF detector? I don't know.
Maybe it's his communicator because he's from Star Trek. Who knows? Then we have a Nick and Tina scene. I didn't write any notes about this. I remember to add it in afterwards. They have some scene where they're just kind of talking. Then we cut back to Jason, who machetes Eddie in the neck, who Eddie thinks is, Melissa coming back because she's changed her mind. But no, he turns around and gets a machete to the neck. And I believe his head chopped off. I think he's the
Probably.
head in the plant later.
Probably.
Oh yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Or that's a different head. Maybe that's David's
We only get a
head.
very short glimpse at the head.
It's not a good.
And it's not a good head
Yeah,
either.
so it's either
No,
Eddie
it's
or
like a
it's
wax
David's
museum
head.
head.
I'm not sure which head it will be. Now we cut back to Robin upstairs, who's leaving bed. She looks for Maddie, then she looks for David. She's kind of just looking for anyone. She just wants to find someone, I guess. And then she sees some pot, and she goes, "Oh, I guess I'll just get high instead of looking for people." But before she has a chance to, there's some rustling over at the closet. You're like, oh, Jason's about to kill her from the closet. But no, it's another actually Friday the 13th trope at this point. It's a fake-out cat jump scare. This is at least the third or fourth time I feel like we've seen that. Which is...
a good point, actually.
It's like the fake-out cat is like a go-to for them, for the fake-out.
Yeah.
Cat.
Yeah.
We cat.
So he jump scares her. Then she kind of just has a conversation with him, and then she finds a head. She finds the head, which David, Eddie, someone's head.
Somebody said.
And then Jason throws her through a window. Chris was obviously disappointed that she didn't
dies.
just get right up, because she should have been able to, right? When you're throwing out a window.
I did make that comment. She got thrown out the window and landed. I was like, come in, you're not getting right up after
Yeah,
that?
no,
That's
you
crazy.
did make a joke about it, but I feel like there is an element of that was about the same fall that the other girl made that you're like, oh, she'd be fine.
Nah, because she fell from a second-story window onto a
Awning that was the same level
onto
as
an
the second-story
awning
window, and
that was a little bit further down from the second story, and then tumbled
Slightly.
onto her back, and thus onto very, very wet mud.
we're not getting into
Just
this.
make it. We'll recreate
That's
both.
a past movie. We're not discussing that again.
Shot out a window, like no breaking of the fall, and then landed face first onto the ground.
You're right. This character should
Onto
be
the
dead.
dry ground.
Well,
Yeah,
the character from 4 should have only been really hurt. I agree. She should not have died from her fall.
Nope.
Yo, we'll recreate both of these scenes, Mythbusters style.
Well, no, I will die if I get
So we're
thrown
gonna
out of the
kill
second-story
Chris?
window.
Crap! I don't want to kill Chris.
That's only a hypothesis.
We can only recreate the
He
first
may
one,
die.
'cause
He
no
may
one
die.
should die from that fall. Except for, like, a small child.
All right. Well, Jason now has a glaive randomly,
Yeah.
and he's chasing Amanda.
I think it's some sort of, like, gardening tool,
Maybe,
but it really just looks like a glaive.
it really does.
I guess I'm gonna look up what a glaive is.
It's a long pole with, like, a
Curved.
a
little-
recurved blade at the end of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm what you're talking. Yeah, that's for sawing tree branches. But it's
Okay.
not. I can't remember if it's toothed or not. It might just be like a.
Okay.
Is it
I
just
always
a
thought
knife?
that those had, like, either teeth or they were, like, scissors that you could, like, clasp instead of just a tiny, not even really tiny, like a machete attached to the end of the stick.
I can't remember what it looks like.
Doesn't really matter.
We'll
We
go
need
with
to get
glaive.
back to the plot. He
But
has
anyway,
some sort of
he
knife
has a glaive.
thing. We're gonna call it a glaive. And he chases
Yeah.
down Amanda and Dr. Cruz. And Dr. Cruz, at this point, and if there was any doubt in your mind that he was a horrible, horrible person, he grabs Amanda, which is the mom, and puts her in front of him so Jason kills her instead of him. And then somehow actually escapes, which is a little weird. Honestly, it's weird. So maybe him and Jason do have a relationship. That, once again, maybe it's in the cutscene. I don't know, because he somehow gets away, which doesn't make sense, really. Because every other time Jason kills one person, he, like, almost immediately kills them. But
Yeah.
Dr. Cruz, he gets away. And now we cut back to Nick, who is back at the house, and he finds Eddie's body downstairs. And then he runs in. He also finds, I think he also finds another body. And then he runs and tells Melissa. He's like, hey, all these people are dead. And she's like, what? And we come back to Dr. Cruz, who finds Tina in the forest. And she finds out that her mom is dead from him. And she leaves him. And then, once again, another weird tool that I'm sure Isaiah's going to tell us, oh, that's very common. And just like the thing we thought was a glaive. Jason has this circular saw weed whacker thing.
Yeah.
Which,
Weird.
like, I'm sure it was like some sort of old weed whacker or something, or some sort of edger or something. But it straight up looks like a weed whacker with a circular saw at the end of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he chases down Dr. Cruz before turning it off at some point, pushing Dr. Cruz over, turning it back on, and then killing Dr. Cruz on the ground. Then we have Tina finding her mom's body. And then she finds everyone else's body because Jason is back to moving bodies. They're all in the forest now, all ready for her to find them right here.
All like around the same tree.
Yeah. Everybody is here. At this point, she runs away. She sees Jason, and she actually like has control of her telekinesis for a little bit here, and she wraps a tree branch around his leg, tripping him into a puddle before then causing some wires to break and fall down, and she made them slither like a little snake into the water and electrocuted him. So Jason is now dead, obviously, and the movie's over. Wait, nope. Another page of notes here. I am sorry, I was wrong. And he's fine, so he chases her some more, and she goes into a house, and this is around the point where me and Chris were having the conversation, like, oh yeah, a lot of people say Jason's, Kane Hodder's a great Jason. I could see it, his little movement and stuff. And Chris is like, I don't know if I really care about him as Jason. And then Kane Hodder does this awesome jump through the window as Jason, and Chris is like, all right, I get it now.
All right, you got it. Definitely best Jason.
Yeah, so he chased her into this house with this awesome jump through the window, and then she kind of runs away for a little bit, closes the sliding door with her telekinesis, and moves the table in the way to slightly inconvenience him. And that's it.
The worst thing you could ever do
I don't know
with your
what
telekinesis is close a sliding double door.
Yeah.
And put a table. Yeah.
In front of said closing sliding double door.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't even have to move the table to open those doors. It's just like, oh yeah, I climbed on top of the table and went, whoop.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So then he gets up, obviously. Or not gets up, he moves it out of the way. And he walks through. She throws a couch at him. He gets up. She throws the plant that now has the head in it, which I don't remember the head being there before that scene. But the head is now in the pot of the plant, and he throws it at his head. And that knocks him over for a little bit. She runs away. He's still chasing her, though, because I didn't take him out. And she straight up like pulls the whole awning down on top of him. Once again, there are some cool practical stunts in this movie, like the destruction, like this and the dock in the beginning of the movie. Like, there's some really cool, like, full set destruction stunts, which is kind of cool. Yeah, so she pulls that down on him, assumes he's dead, and goes to find Melissa talking to Nick at the other house, which I think like her house, not the party house. And at this point, they're having this whole discussion, and Melissa's like, you guys are crazy. I'm leaving. So she tries to leave, and, look, Jason's here, and she's dead. Jason, I believe, takes an axe to her head?
I think so.
Yes, axe to the face. And, Nick and Tina try to run away from him up the stairs, because, when you're trying to escape from someone, the best idea is to corner yourself. So they run up the stairs. But actually, surprisingly, it actually wasn't that bad of an escape route because of she has telekinesis, so she was able to make this light fixture hit him in the face, which caused him to stumble backwards,
falling
Home Alone
through
style.
The stairs.
This part of the movie gets kind of Home Alone-y, and I'm fine with that though. But yeah, he falls down the stair through the stairs, like breaks the stairs immediately.
Yeah, very weak stairs in this.
Yeah,
film.
Well, it's an old house, Chris.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And let me guess, Chris, you think you could fall through those stairs and get right up, right? Is that what you're going to tell me?
No, I would say that I would fall through, or I'd fall down some stairs, and I would presumably not fall through them.
No, you're going to fall through them, because we're going to build the really cheap stairs like they had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just some plywood stair.
And then after that, if you somehow don't... We're gonna then pick up your, crippled body from that fall and throw you through a window and see if you live. So...
I definitely won't.
Yeah, I know you won't.
I don't know.
But, by the way, when I say we, I mean Isaiah is going to do this for legal reasons. I am not involved. And I had no part in this, and no planning of this, and think it's a horrible, bad idea.
Well, we gotta film it, and then we can release it as a film
A found footage horror movie? Yeah.
2005. Those friends doing goofy stunts together.
Oh!
It's like Jackass, but it lasts 8 minutes.
And then I died.
Chris is dead.
Well, the best part is, though, we planned out all these really cool, crazy stuff like that, but then then Chris legitimately like breaks his back on the one fall that he thinks he can do, and then it's over.
That's it. Yeah.
He's just lying there with a broken back, like, all right, you guys are right, and we're like, no, you're falling through some stairs, buddy.
Yeah. In fairness, if I break my back on that stunt, I deserve to have my back broken on that stunt because that's like a baby stunt.
Oh my gosh.
Compared to what most people do, like especially on the Jackass, like they endure so much worse.
I mean, and a lot of them end up getting seriously injured, and they don't film the next thing for weeks to months on end because they're legitimately broken backs and stuff.
From much worse. Yeah.
You know how many broken bones Johnny Knoxville had? I believe it's every bone in his body. Multiple times.
Are you serious?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is, Chris is wrong about that jump, and we will find out at our first ever fan meetup in about 5 years.
In Hawaii.
Yeah, in Hawaii for a different thing that me and Chris just want to go to Hawaii because we watched some movies that were set in Hawaii for a different series.
But canonically, yes.
Yeah,
that is our first fan meetup.
Yeah. Where were we before?
I don't know.
Here, the fan meetup. That's what we're talking. That's the subject.
Yeah. So
Jason falls through stairs.
So he falls through the stairs. They kind of climb awkwardly on the little edges of the stairs that are still there to get down. They think they're fine, but boom! Jason pops through the side of the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And he comes at Nick, knocks Nick down, goes to like step on him to death. I guess is what he was planning.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a chance to go because this is the point where the movie actually gets pretty good for a little while, and then falls back off by the end. Don't worry. If you thought this movie was good at any point, not for long.
Get your hopes up.
Yeah. So he goes to step on him, and she starts like telekinesis, whatever. That's a hard word to say. Trying to crush his head with telekinesis, and like we see brain juice coming out of him. Like it's pretty cool. Yeah, and then she breaks another light above him, has the wire from it come down and choke him and like lift him up. And then
His mask also breaks.
Yeah, his mask breaks
because his head's getting squished.
Yeah, and we see this cool like zombie makeup on his face as well. So once again, Jason looks great in this movie, and also pretty much any stunt work was pretty good. The kills weren't so great, but the stunt work was really good. Typically, when there was stunt work,
kills were not so great at no fault of the film director.
Yeah, he tried. But yeah,
that clear.
So he gets choked up there, and she like rips open the floor to the basement and drops him into it. And then she thinks he's dead because once again she always thinks he's dead when he's definitely not, and she really shouldn't at this point. We get a shot of him opening his eye under there though, so we know he's not dead. And then she goes over to check on Nick, but he pulls her down in there, and we get some more cool telekinesis stuff where she throws nails at him. Doesn't really do much, but it was a cool visual to throw nails at him. And he's a zombie, so they don't have to have any blood, so the MPAA was cool with it.
Yeah.
And then we have her start throwing the gas can to just spurt out like 12 gallons worth of gas on everyone.
In that tiny little
it's one
jerry
tank,
can.
Yeah, one little jerry can.
Dude, it's like Hanukkah. That stuff just does not run out in that gas can.
It doesn't. You're not wrong at all. And she just so much of it before she then lights the furnace on fire as well. She lights the furnace to send out fire from it. At first, it starts a ring of fire around him. He's like, "Oh, what do I do now?" And then she shoots another fireball at him. He falls down, and then she escapes with Nick, who just woke up. They run out of the house. The house explodes right after they get out of there because apparently there was that much gas in that gas can that the house exploded. Really, it was cool. Once again, cool visual, but why?
Great explosion. Yeah.
Great stunt work. Horrible storytelling to get you to that point. Makes no sense whatsoever.
A really big jerry can.
And I guess I'm not sure if Jason also escaped or just survived the explosion. It's not really. We don't know. They run off to he follows them to the dock. He pushes Nick onto the boat, and then we get like this final square off between her and him, and she's really thinking, and she pulls her dad up from under the water. He's alive, I guess, for this one scene.
And in perfect condition.
No issues
completely
whatsoever. No rotting.
Yeah.
Clothes
nothing.
pressed.
Like
just,
a little bit of brown
sharp.
makeup around the edges of his face to show he was underwater, I guess.
Right.
He pulls Jason down. And
Whipping out some of the moves he used on his old wife, you know. He's unstoppable.
Yeah, that's also another thing. I guess that you could argue this was like redemption for a character that his only other feature we knew about him was he was an abusive piece of garbage. But he gets redemption, because that's this movie.
As a zombie.
Yeah, as a zombie. But not fully zombie, because apparently the zombie makeup was too graphic and that got cut. Because, once again, like you talked about, there's a lot of cutscenes. The cutscene has him in full zombie makeup pull him down before then turning into a human to, like, wave at her. It's weird, that version.
It must be a hallucination, the waving part.
Yeah, the waving. She's seeing him how she remembers him, maybe, for that part. But it doesn't make sense. And that part doesn't exist, though. We just have weird, unaltered him pull Jason in. We cut to an ambulance. Her being like, is Nick okay? And they're like, yeah, he's okay. And then she goes to the ambulance with him, and he's like, did we do it? She's like, yeah, we did it. Movie ends.
Woo.
That's it. So, final thoughts. The movie was crap. Not as crap as other movies we've watched for this series. There were glimmering moments of hope. And like we've discussed repeatedly throughout this, it's really the MPA's fault that this movie is as bad as it is. Like, the director is like on record saying like he had all these ideas. There's all these cut scenes we kept referencing that are on like the DVD edition and on YouTube if you want to go watch it. The YouTube version is like a 244p upload of the DVD stuff, so it's really rough looking, like even worse than what me and Chris watched. But it's, you know, you can see some of the kills. You see the really cool version of a lot of the kills. A lot of the kills are much cooler in that version that never existed. And but yeah, it was too graphic. Couldn't do it. And yeah, it's gone. And the movie suffers for it. A lot of nothing. The plot is bad. Like a lot of these movies, the plot isn't good. But this one doesn't have anything to save it. And like the only cool stuff, there's a couple cool set pieces. Like a lot of the stuff she does to him at the end are cool, but it's unearned, and I don't care. And her character makes no sense. Why does she have these powers? Like there's so many things that aren't answered and done badly that this movie isn't good. And it's a shame because the last movie was like my second favorite in the franchise, and now we have this one, which is my second least favorite in the franchise. So that's my thoughts, Chris.
Yeah, this movie was really bad. Not even like funny bad, although there were parts that were like funny bad, but it does not make up for the movie as a whole. Yeah, just completely ridiculous, but in ways that don't really make sense in this like universe that we've established so far. Just completely unearned, I think, is what I would say about this movie if I had to sum it up is in 2 words.
Well, I'm gonna very gently disagree. And as we've been going through these movies, I don't know about y'all, but I've been kind of sorting them mentally into ones that are worth watching and ones that are not worth watching.
Okay.
And I had a hard time doing that with this one. And over the course of this podcast, y'all have convinced me that a lot of it is bad storytelling, which is a big deal, probably the biggest deal, because movies are stories. But I think that the final girl, whose actual name as an actress escapes me, did a pretty good job for the most part. Especially, that might just be compared to the other characters in the movie. Like Dr. Cruz, when he was being chased down by Jason, for example, saw, her mom get killed, then sees Jason brandish this circular saw-looking thing on a stick. Yeah, and he's like, oh, and he's got one scream, oh, like that. and then and she's got great screams, and you can gauge like how much does a great scream weigh in the value of a movie? Maybe not a lot, but they've
Slasher film,
attempted
I think
before in other
I think you're
movies.
right. Oh, that's a good point. Like in a slasher film,
You know,
like they call like final girls, and the other name for them is scream queens. Like that there's a reason for that. No, you're not. You are swaying
she had
me
good
to
screams.
appreciating her.
And in addition to that, I mean, she was just convincing. I think throughout the movie, she was a good main character, and we've seen other main characters, like the guy that played Tommy in number 5. Part of that was just, I mean, the acting we saw from him in that movie, though minor, was very good. He just wasn't there. We are really endeared to her in this movie, and I appreciate that. They've attempted before to set up these kinds of conflicts that are going to end up with like psychological closure, and they haven't really landed it. Again, with number 5, for example, that one ends totally unresolved mentally. And with number 6, we've got Jarvis. I mean, kind of receiving closure in a way, but it's not, the conflict wasn't set up in the same movie. You know what I mean? And to this one, from start to finish, we have this arc where, in a very unexpected way, we've got this secondary villain that I think unfolds really well with Dr. Cruz. You know, I just think he like reveals himself very gradually and well, and in the end, she gets closure. But what really cinches it to me and sorting it in the not worth watching category is this terrible ending with the like benevolent smile at the camera from the dad leaping up out of the water after she bestows life on him. And yeah, I don't have a problem with her telekinesis. I don't get the strong opinions on telekinesis. It seems just as likely as a lightning bolt resurrecting
No,
Jason
that's fair.
to me.
No, that's fair.
But like the dad thing, this is how she gets closure. I mean, I get that they're wanting to put an end to the conflict they began, but that is just such a goofy way to do it. It was so goofy.
Yeah. Once again, just to try to be a little positive, bring up the positives. There were cool set pieces. Kane Hodder, despite what Chris thought for the first half of the movie, is probably the best Jason, and his stunt work was amazing.
Stunt work was amazing.
The effects on him, like the costuming and the makeup on him, was so much better, like leaps and bounds better than the next best one, which I don't even know what it is because none of the other ones were good enough to stand out as me going, oh, that, like there were probably ones where in the moment we're like, oh, that's bad, but none of them were good enough that I can look back and go, oh, that was the one that was kind of better. This one, it was beautiful. And
yeah, this
like,
is definitely the best depiction of Jason that we've gotten. Costume design was phenomenal.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think this movie is probably worth watching, if nothing else than just to crap on it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think, honestly, so far from what I've seen from both of these movies, even the worst ones, you kind of have to watch them to appreciate the other ones. Watch them all. It's what, like...
That's a good take.
Totally, like, the total time
there are
is,
some
like,
that are so bad that you have to see it just to see how bad it is, and then there are, like, the really good ones, and then there's the ones that are kind of in between, and it's just like, yeah, that's another Friday the 13th
But, like, I feel
movie.
like even, like, the ones I'm trying to think of, like, 3 has, like, such a bad effects that make it funny to watch. Like, 5 is really bad, but also, like, sandwiched between 4 and 6, which are all kind of trying to tell the same story. It's kind of needed, but not. It's weird. Like, so far that one I would say is the worst one. I think we all agree that 5 was the worst. But, like, it's in a sense almost needed for 4 and 6. Almost. Not quite, because there's a lot of, like, they do things and then undo them immediately. But,
yes.
Yeah.
No.
But there's
I would
still,
debate that 5 almost isn't needed.
Yeah,
but
5
it
might
is
almost not
still
be
really bad.
Yeah. Maybe skip 5. Watch every other one so far is what I'm saying. But next week we'll be back again with our actual 8th week of the podcast.
That's right.
With Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Ooh, buddy. Bye-bye.
Is he going to the big city? Oh. All right.
He's a fish out of water. See y'all later.